Hello and welcome. Today I'm in the rather idyllic setting of Bad Düben, which is, if you drew a line from Leipzig to Berlin, it's about a quarter of the way, something like that, 1/5 to a quarter of the way, something along those lines. It's a spa town, it's quite small, and looking around now, this is June and it's just about empty. And the reason I am here is because I'm preparing a video on the Holocaust, and in these very idyllic surroundings something pretty awful was planned. In June of 1941, possibly even earlier than June, because I think there's evidence to suggest that the Einsatzkommando came here earlier than that. It's a place called Pretzsch, which is on the Elbe River. It's on the western bank of the Elbe River, and between Pretzsch and here, between 3,000 and 4,000 men of the Einsatzkommando appear to have been accommodated in June 1941. And whilst they were here, they were given lessons in all sorts of things, such as how Soviet people think, loyalty to Hitler and things of that nature. They were here to not only get a bit of rest and relaxation before the mass murders were about to start in the Soviet Union, also to have a bit of binding together, because they brought all of these people from all sorts of places, and the commanders were highly educated people. Some of them even had 2 doctorates. You may have seen the video I did on Martin Sandberger, who was a lawyer. Otto Ohlendorf, he was a very skilled economist, and yet he was also the person who headed Einsatzgruppen D, which murdered 91,000 people approximately. So they came to this location. A lot of what we know about this comes from the Ohlendorf trial. Ohlendorf gave evidence at Nuremberg for the prosecution. He openly talked about it. He didn't try, as others did, to say he wasn't guilty or anything of that nature. He openly said what he did. And so that's the reason I'm here. And so this is it just doesn't look like a place where this sort of thing would be planned. It's a rest and relaxation place. Heydrich came here during the First World War, and I wonder if the two things may be linked. The Heydrich family was quite wealthy. They lived in Halle. Halle is about 55 kilometers from here. I've just come from Halle today. It took me about an hour. Then possibly, I presume it would have taken longer. Probably came by train. But the Heydrich family, who were well off, they used to go to Schwienemunde, which was an up-and-coming seaside resort at the beginning of the 20th century. So during the First World War they couldn't afford it, I presume, so they came here to the Düben Heath, which is a large area to the north of where I am right now, mixed forest and heathland. And whilst Heydrich was here during the First World War, so he was born in 1904, so he's like from 10 to 14, his father Bruno rented a forester's cottage, and the forester had a son which more or less the same age as Heydrich. I think it was maybe a year older, but was very, very little in it, and the two of them became friends. And after the war, this friend said that what they did together, for example, they read the Histoire de la Civilisation, and then they talked about it in French, and they tried to learn Russian because there were some Russian prisoners of war in the area, and so they would talk to them. And it seems very strange that this Reinhard Heydrich, who also one of his friends was the son of the cantor from the synagogue, he wasn't a racist. And how this came about what he actually did in life, which is really odd. But there is an explanation for that as well. This was because of his wife, Lena Heydrich. Reinhard Heydrich was in the Navy, joined the Navy in 1922. And whilst he was in the Navy, he met Lena at some dance. And after seeing her the second time, he proposed to her, so they became sort of secretly engaged, but then they became officially engaged. Lena's family were out and out Nazis. Her brother had been in the SA, I think, from about 1927, something like that. Really hardcore racists. And Heydrich, when he was going to get married, so they agreed to get married, he sent out his wedding invitations, and the wedding invitation that he sent to one person was a woman he was also seeing, and because the two of them were having a sexual relationship, she for some reason had assumed that she was going to become Mrs. Heydrich. Anyway, she took offence at this and got her father involved. And the father must have been somebody pretty important in the Navy, because he complained to Admiral Raeder. And so Heydrich had to have a hearing to decide to do it. And now, what would have happened normally in cases like this? Okay, he'd misbehaved himself, he hadn't behaved in a gentlemanly manner, but this wasn't such a serious thing. But what happened was his behaviour at this hearing so disgusted the people, the three officers, one of whom was not much older than he was. I think it might be even younger. I think in 1905 I think he was born, so Heydrich was 94. And they suggested that he be forced to leave the Navy, and so he found himself in a unemployed situation. Why did they want this? Because what they saw was his arrogance, and he tried to shift the blame onto the woman. Instead of saying, oh, you're so sorry, he behaved incorrectly and he won't do it again, sort of thing, which would have maybe given some light fine or some minor punishment, he was totally arrogant at the hearing, and this caused them to want to get rid of him. So just as the massive depression was hitting Germany, he finds himself unemployed, and as a result of this unemployment, he then was unable to get married. And so he wanted to marry Lena, so he had to borrow from the family. And that was how he became indebted to the family. And then when he got a job, and that job was arranged by the family, they knew somebody through the brother, Lena's brother, who was in the SA, had a contact who heard that Himmler wanted a security person, somebody to head up a sort of a security agency. I use that in very light terms because it was only going to be him. So the appointment was arranged for Himmler. Himmler was ill on that day, but Lena insisted he went to see him anyway. So he went down to Munich. He got a lift from somebody he knew down to Himmler's place, which was just outside the city. And Himmler asked him to draw up a plan of how he would see an intelligence organization. And so he did this. He drew up a plan. And he did this because he liked spy books and detective stories and things like that. And so that's where he got his knowledge from. I suppose lots of us get their knowledge from things like that, so I wouldn't criticize that. But So Himmler took him on immediately. So he was the only person running the SD then, as it was to become Sicherheitsdienst and security service. But it was his desire to impress the family which led him to do this. So somebody who hadn't been a racist, somebody whose own father had many clients who were Jewish and who rented part of his property out to Jewish people, somebody his uncle was married to a Jewish lady. So he, because of this desire to impress the family of his intended bride, became this racist, and this brought him here to this location where I am now, for him to talk about the mass murder by bullets of, effectively, numbers are not known. I mean, I can't say. After he was assassinated, after he died, people said he wasn't assassinated. Well, he died as a result of the assassination attempt in June 1942. The murder of the Polish Jews was named Operation Reinhardt after him. There are those who claim it wasn't after him, it was an economic, but I'm pretty certain it was after him. So anyway, I'm going to put this in a longer video at another date, and I'm also going to do the story of his alleged Jewish background in another video. Yeah, I'll tell you that one now. His father, his grandfather, died young, leaving 6 children, and the mother married again a second time, and her new husband was 13 years younger than he was. His name was Süß, which means sweet, and that is seen as a typically Jewish name. And although he wasn't Jewish, he was Protestant. It's just like being called McDonald's or something like that, and never having eaten a hamburger or a haggis, something along those lines. So the father had a music conservatory in Halle. There was somebody who was kicked out of the music conservatory for bad behaviour, and he decided to get revenge, and he knew somebody who was on the editorial board of a music lexicon. So it was this book which was published periodically. I think there's so far been 13 editions of it since about 1890 or something, I can't remember exactly. And this music lexicon appeared, and when it appeared in 1916, it said about Bruno Heydrich, and it said that he was Jewish, a real name Süß. So, but it was totally untrue. Now it went to court, and Bruno got it corrected in the next edition, which came out not so long after that, as it turned out. But it stuck as a rumour, and it was actually reinforced when it turned out that his wife's father's brother also had married a Jewish lady. So that's where it came from. But he's not Jewish at all. I know some woman on the internet I've been told about who's got a website showing his background or something. I don't know if he made it up or what, but Heydrich was not Jewish at all, and so anything about that is completely untrue. Okay, great. So I've just sort of walked around in the circle here. The reason I walked around in the circle was because I heard there was some music. I'll turn the thing on, I don't want to look at me anymore. You can see what it looks like here. For me, it was really strange coming here today, and I thought, this is this place I've thought a lot about, and I don't know what I was expecting or anything like that. That mass murder of hundreds of thousands of people was actually planned here, and it was this shooting of pretty horrific circumstances. Some people were shot, like Ohlendorf did it via firing squads, but there was this way of putting what so-called sardine method, where people were forced to lie on the bodies in a trench. People had already been shot, and then just shoot them one by one. Other people had to sit at the edge of the trench and then were shot. The way that the Einsatzgruppen shot people very much depended on the commander, what the commander thought was the best way of doing it. Heydrich was like that. He didn't give them clear orders as such. He expected them to act on their own initiative, which I think for commanders probably usually a good way of doing things. Ohlendorf and others wanted to get everybody involved, so he made sure that the people in charge also were involved in the shooting. So that's for the 50th anniversary of the park being put here. Love of the Heimat. Okay. So thanks for being here. I'll do a longer video on all them subjects. I've done it in very I sort of meant to do a 3-minute video saying what I was going to do, and then I ended up talking about other things. Reinhard Heydrich. I've just come back from Halle. I'll take the camera back on me. I've just come back from Halle. That's why I just come back from Halle. I was in Halle for 4 days, and I was there with doing filming. I wanted to film the places where Heydrich lived, and it's only now I didn't film the church he went to. Heydrich was also in the choir boy. His mother made sure that they went to church every Sunday. His father had to convert to Catholicism for his mother, and I forgot to film his church, but you can see the video I did on Hitler's church, that the one he used to go to as a child. I did film that years ago. Anyway, I'm now making my way in a northeasterly direction, so I'll go to Pretzsch, then I'll go to Lichtenberg, former concentration camp, which is at Prettin, and then Jüterborg, military base, then Zossen, where the high command was in the Second World War, then to Berlin, passing the airport that von Stauffenberg used on the 20th of July 1944. Okay, good. Thanks very much. Watch. There's something else here in the park. I'll turn this round again. There's another. There was a battle in the Napoleonic War as well, not so far from Jüterborg. So I think I'll go and see that. Yeah, that's Hartig Rasch, who founded the park in Hartig und Rasch. Sorry. Wasn't reading it properly. Messieurs Hartig and Rasch founded this park in 1849. So it was their work. But it's really attractive though, and considering that there's no one around. I mean, in the motorhome place where I am, there's only 4 of us in there. Here's another statue over here as well. Yeah, I hope there's still people watching this. I've gone completely off the subject, but it's really nice. Oh, somebody's talking to me now. I think she was talking to me, I don't know. I just smiled back at her. And right, so we've got a picture of, this is First World War Memorial, 1914, 1918. I didn't realise it was in the park. Now, this was East Germany, so we're unlikely to find anything, I think, from East German times of the Second World War. Not unlikely, there could be something from the Second World War. but there may have been things which put up after the end of the Second World War. When I was in Suhl, that's S-U-H-L, and there were monuments to the glorious heroes of the Soviet Union. That video's to come as well. Okay, great. Thanks very much for being here. All the best for me in Germany. Bye for now.